ये तेरी बेखौफ मोहब्बत, ये दिलचस्प अंदाज़ बयान।
ज़िल्ले इलाही की फराग।
Most of the famous Bollywood dialogues like
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे बाप होते हैं।
वो गैम्बो खुश हुआ
have one thing in common, that they are actually in Urdu, not in Hindi. Not just dialogues, but even famous songs like they were all written in Urdu. When we think of Bollywood, we think of it as a Hindi cinema. So the question is, why did Bollywood choose Urdu over Hindi while writing these songs and dialogues? The reason behind this is quite complex, yet very interesting. When the films started being made, there were no dialogues in the movies. They only had visuals, and in between some text would appear on the screen. That's how people used to understand these movies. These kind of films were called silent films. But when the silent film era ended and the voice started being used in the movies, a new problem came up. Which language should be used in these films? Now you might think, it's simple. Just make movies in Hindi. But in reality, Bollywood actually chose Urdu as their primary language. But why? The answer is actually hidden in Sanskrit. See, the Hindi we write today uses the Devanagari script, which is originally a Sanskrit script, not Hindi. But back then, when Bollywood started making non-silent films, there was no single script for writing Hindi that everyone used. In different regions, Hindi was being written in different scripts. Like in Bihar, people commonly used Kaithi script. Some places used Devanagari while others wrote Hindi in their local scripts. It was kind of like how we use Roman letters to type Hindi on WhatsApp today. 14 September 1949. This was the day when Indian government officially decided that Hindi would be written in the same script used for Sanskrit, and that is the Devanagari script that we use today. But talking films had already started in 1931. That is 18 years before Hindi officially got the Devanagari script. So the big question was, in which language should the dialogues of Bollywood be written? The answer was simple, Urdu.
कौन कमबख्त है जो बर्दाश्त करने के लिए पीता है?
क्या नज़ा की तकलीफों में मजा जब मौत न आए जवानी में, और हार कर जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं.
Because it was quite similar to Hindi, people would easily understand it, and Urdu already had an official script even at that time. So writing dialogues wouldn't be a problem either. That's why for speaking, they created a mix of Hindi and Urdu and called it the Hindustani language. And for writing, they used Nastaliq script, which was the official script of Urdu. And that's exactly why even India's first talking film, Alam Ara, was also an Urdu film. This is how Bollywood was built on a foundation not of Hindi, but of Urdu-speaking films. Now, people who could read Urdu were given the dialogues in the Urdu script, but for those who couldn't read this, the same Urdu dialogues were written in a script that they could read. For example, if I can read English, the Urdu dialogues would be written in the Roman letters, just like how we type Hindi on WhatsApp today. And because the dialogues were originally written in Urdu and only later adapted into other scripts for convenience, that's why the dialogues themselves remained in Urdu. These were some of the most famous dialogue writers of that time. Most of these writers were either Urdu dialogue writers or under the label of Hindustani language. The focus was more on Urdu and less on Hindi. That's how a version of Bollywood was born, which people would later start calling Urduwood. If you look at the highest grossing films of that era, their language was either Urdu or Hindustani. Even the movie titles were in Urdu. From Mughal-e-Azam to Avara, Karwa and Sholay, and these were some of the most popular films of that era. On one hand, during the era of silent movies, a lot of films were based on Hindu scriptures. In fact, India's very first film, Raja Harishchandra, was also based on Hindu scriptures. This film was made by Dada Saheb Phalke, who created entire collection of such films like Satyavan Savitri, Lanka Dahan, Shri Krishna Janm, and of course, Raja Harishchandra. But once Urdu completely took over Bollywood, the number of films based on Hindu scriptures slowly started to decline. But in South Indian cinema, there was no such problems. Whether it was Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam or Kannada, all of them were making films in their own native languages. While Hindi took a long time to widely adopt the Sanskrit-based Devanagari script, the South Indian languages didn't need to borrow a script from any other language. That's why they had no difficulty in making films in their own mother tongues. South Indian people understood the Indian culture well and were able to represent it on the big screen too. And you can still see the impact of that today. South Indian cinema looks much more rooted in its culture compared to Bollywood. Urdu writers tried to make Urdu sound like a romantic and modern language. For them, words like prem felt outdated, but mohabbat sounded modern. Prashn was old-fashioned, but sawal was cool. Mrityu felt ancient, but maut felt modern. Because Urdu was given so much preference right from the early days of non-silent Bollywood films, Bollywood slowly became obsessed with the language. And that's one of the main reasons why today people troll Bollywood by calling it Urduwood. This effect wasn't just limited to film dialogues, it had deeply entered the songs too. Take the most iconic film of that era, Sholay. Many of these songs had words that couldn't be written in any language other than Arabic-based scripts. For example, in Urdu it is not Jameen, it's Zameen. Not Garib, but Garib. Not Kharab, but Kharab. To pronounce these words properly, singers were specially trained. Later, to write such words in the Devanagari script, dots were added below certain letters, so that Urdu words could be written in Devanagari too. Even poets like Shailendra, who became famous for song Avara Hoon, were primarily writing in Urdu. But after 1949, when India officially adopted Hindi and English as their official languages, and Hindi got proper recognition along with the Devanagari script, things slowly began to change. Over time, especially after the 1990s, Urdu poets were not as popular in Bollywood as they used to be in the early days. And among the few who remained at that level, most of them were from Pakistan, like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, whose songs are still famous today. Over time, even Urdu dialogues started becoming less common in Bollywood, but the mix of Urdu and Hindi has always been there. The debate is not about which language is being used, but the debate is about which one dominates the more. In the early days, Urdu clearly had more dominance in Bollywood, but now Hindi is being preferred more. Mainly because today, dialogues are usually written in either Roman letters or in the Devanagari script. Now before you go, I really need your help. I usually don't ask people to subscribe, but this time I really need to reach at least 50 subscribers so I can keep making videos like this. It's just one button. I hope you click on it. Thanks for watching.